You see the glossy photos first, the flawless ski runs, the ultra-polished resorts worth billions, the postcard-perfect main streets lightly coated in snow. It's easy to picture yourself there, stretched out near a crackling fireplace inside a mountain home that costs more than most people will earn in a lifetime. It all feels like the ultimate getaway, the high-altitude version of the American dream. But that carefully marketed dream, the one sold to millions, is starting to unravel fast. For the first time in more than 10 years, Colorado's high country isn't just wobbling financially, it's in outright freefall. The pandemic-driven land rush, the Zoom town frenzy where wealthy buyers from the coast battled over rustic cabins, has officially burned out. And what's left behind is a brutal aftermath. This isn't a mild adjustment or a gentle cool-down. This is something far more serious. We're talking about a full-blown real estate breakdown. Today, we're not here to admire the scenery. We're hitting the road on a financial deep dive, traveling through 10 mountain towns where the housing market is collapsing at record speed. We'll count them down from 10 to 1, and with every stop, the situation gets uglier. You'll see price cuts so extreme they look like clerical errors, high-end homes sitting vacant for well over a year, and an insurance crisis so severe it's making some properties nearly impossible to own at all. And this story isn't just about wealthy homeowners taking losses. It's about entire communities hollowing out in real time. What may shock you most is discovering which picture-perfect town has watched its median home price drop by more than 30% in just 6 months. And when we get to number 1, it's the place everyone assumes is immune, the market people say can't fail. But the numbers we uncovered tell a very different story. One so bad that local brokers are doing everything they can to keep it quiet. If you're worn out by the constant everything's fine messaging and want to understand what's actually happening, help us out by hitting the like button and subscribing. And as we go, drop a comment below. Are you seeing similar cracks where you live? Our journey into this financial avalanche starts right now. Number 10. Pagosa Springs. Our road trip kicks off far to the south, not far from the New Mexico border, as we roll into Pagosa Springs. Most people recognize it instantly for its famous natural hot springs. A town that always felt slower, quieter, and more rooted in old-school Colorado compared to the flashier resorts along the I-70 corridor. That laid-back reputation, however, has given way to a housing market paralyzed by uncertainty. Pagosa Springs became a textbook example of the short-term rental explosion. Investors poured in, snapping up homes to list on Airbnb and VRBO, driving prices beyond the reach of locals while gambling on non-stop tourism demand. That gamble has officially blown up. As housing pressure mounted, the town council stepped in and hit the brakes hard. First came a moratorium, followed by a firm cap on new short-term rental licenses. Once those rules were in place, the market lost its footing almost overnight. According to AirDNA, which tracks rental performance, future bookings in the area have plunged by an eye-opening 40%. The so-called guaranteed income stream investors were sold has evaporated. Now take a look at what's sitting on the market. Data from the Archuleta County Association of Realtors shows inventory for homes priced above $1 million has nearly doubled, jumping 95% compared to last year. These are the exact properties investors targeted, and they're not moving. Zillow reports that the average home in Pagosa Springs now sits on the market for about 130 days, more than 3 times longer than just 2 years ago. The stress is obvious. Recent numbers from Redfin reveal that roughly 1 out of every 3 listings has seen a price cut in the past month alone. But the deepest problem runs even deeper than that. According to the Colorado Department of Labor, the median income in Archuleta County realistically supports a home price of around $350,000. Meanwhile, the median listing price, even after all the reductions, still hovers above $700,000. Investors have disappeared and local buyers simply don't have the means to step in. With no one left to catch falling prices, this market has only one direction to go, and it isn't up. It's a sobering way to begin our countdown. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think. Was cracking down on short-term rentals the right call, even if it helped trigger this collapse? Number 9. Durango. Leaving Pagosa Springs behind, we head west along Highway 160 toward Durango, a historic railroad town that's always stood apart from the typical mountain resort stereotype. This isn't just a seasonal ski destination. It's a functioning city with a college, a permanent workforce, and an economy that operates year-round. And that's exactly why what's happening here should set off alarm bells. This collapse isn't just about tourism drying up. Durango's problem is something far more fundamental. Runaway unaffordability finally slamming into reality. High interest rates have effectively locked the housing market in place. According to a recent report from the Durango Area Association of Realtors, total home sales have cratered, dropping 52% compared to the same time 2 years ago. That's not a dip in prices. It's the number of actual transactions falling off a cliff. The market hasn't slowed. It's seized up. So what's causing the freeze? Sellers are stuck. Many homeowners are sitting on ultra-low mortgage rates in the 2.5 to 3% range and simply refuse to give them up. As a result, inventory looks tight on paper, even though buyer demand has largely vanished. But beneath the surface, stress fractures are forming. Builders don't have the luxury of waiting things out. Data from the La Plata County Planning Department shows a growing backlog of newly constructed luxury townhomes and condos, with zero pre-sales attached. This is where the freefall quietly begins. Developers are now rolling out aggressive incentives, including offers like $50,000 toward closing costs or fully paid rate buydowns. Those aren't perks. They're price cuts disguised to save face. At the same time, the broader local economy is losing momentum. The U.S. Census Bureau reports that Durango's population growth has stalled for the first time in 3 decades. Younger residents and families are packing up and leaving. A study from the local economic forum Align Durango found that affording a 2-bedroom apartment now requires an annual income of roughly $90,000, while the median household income sits closer to $72,000. In plain terms, the town has become too expensive for the people who actually live and work there. And with interest rates staying high, wealthy cash buyers aren't riding in to rescue the market anymore. What's left is a standoff, sellers waiting, buyers gone, and pressure quietly building. It's a strange kind of disaster not marked by panic selling, but by something arguably worse, a market that simply stopped breathing. So what do you think is more dangerous, a sudden crash or a long, silent freeze? Let us know in the comments. Number 8. Silverthorne. From Durango, we swing back north and merge onto the I-70 corridor, rolling straight into Silverthorne. You know this place even if you've never stopped. The huge outlet mall flashing by on your way to Keystone. For years, Silverthorne was marketed as the affordable option in Summit County. But take a closer look now, especially at the half-built condo projects scattered around town, and a very different picture emerges. Silverthorne has become ground zero for a massive overbuilding disaster. The core issue here is inventory, far too much of it. Developers, flush with cheap pandemic-era financing, went into overdrive. According to a new report from the Summit County Association of Realtors, new construction inventory in the Silverthorne area has exploded, surging 145% compared to last year. The problem is simple. There aren't enough buyers willing or able to absorb all these units. Zillow's latest numbers show the average home in Silverthorne now lingers on the market for about 128 days, roughly 3 times longer than it did just 2 years ago. That kind of delay shifts all the leverage to buyers. Redfin backs this up, reporting that more than 45% of active listings have already taken significant price cuts, often slashed in chunks of $50,000 at a time. But the most damaging blow came from policy changes. The town council introduced new restrictions on short-term rentals, effectively pulling the rug out from under investors. AirDNA data shows future bookings in non-exempt zones have fallen by roughly 50%. The dependable rental income investors were counting on has vanished. That combination creates a brutal no-man's land. The Colorado Department of Labor says the median local income can realistically support a mortgage around $400,000, yet the median home price in Silverthorne still sits near $900,000. In other words, locals can't afford these homes, and investors no longer want them. The outcome is exactly what you'd expect: a town slowly hollowing out. U.S. Census Bureau estimates now show Silverthorne's population declining for the first time in 20 years. The people taking the hardest hit are developers and recent buyers who are now stuck with negative equity and no easy exit. Silverthorne represents a perfect storm. unchecked construction, demand that's evaporated, and sudden policy shifts that accelerated the crash. As we continue down the road, weigh in below. Is Silverthorne an isolated cautionary tale, or are we watching the entire mountain real estate market collapse like a house of cards? Number 7. Crested Butte. We leave the interstate behind and head south on a long, stunning stretch of road that leads to one of Colorado's most remote and recognizable places, Crested Butte. This isn't just a town, it's a living postcard, historic, fiercely preserved, and almost impossibly scenic. And right now, it's also deep in denial. The downturn in Crested Butte is subtle on the surface, but underneath, it's brutal. This is an ultra-high-end market that has quietly locked up completely. For years, Crested Butte sold itself as the opposite of Vail. More authentic, more real, untouched by excess. Ironically, that very image drew in billionaires and prices skyrocketed. Before long, the median home price pushed past $2 million. Now those same multi-million-dollar homes are just sitting there. And sitting. Data from the Crested Butte-Gunnison Association of Realtors paints a grim picture. Total sales volume has collapsed by roughly 60%, while transactions above $3 million have fallen off a cliff, down 80%. The luxury buyers who once couldn't get enough of this place have vanished. You can see the freeze clearly in the listing data. Zillow shows the average home in Crested Butte now takes around 210 days to sell. That's not an exaggeration, 6 to 7 months, at minimum, just to move a property. And while local agents try to downplay what's happening, Redfin's numbers tell the real story. Nearly half of all active listings have already cut their prices. The reductions are spreading fast. But the most troubling warning sign isn't even housing. It's the local economy itself. The town is locked in a bitter fight over short-term rentals, with a 2-year moratorium effectively freezing that segment of the market. On top of that, insurance costs are exploding. Crested Butte's isolation and growing wildfire risk have sent premiums through the roof. One local broker told us a $4 million home recently received an annual insurance quote of $70,000. That's almost $6,000 every single month just to stay insured. This market was built on the idea that there would always be a richer buyer waiting in line. That assumption has finally collapsed. The ultra-wealthy can afford to sit tight, but anyone who needs to sell right now is staring down devastating losses. Crested Butte is proof that authenticity can be packaged and sold like anything else. And at the moment, that brand has turned radioactive. We're heading back toward the main corridor next, and if you think this is bad, brace yourself. The data only gets darker from here. Number 6. Steamboat Springs. We push farther north, way north, until we reach Steamboat Springs, long known as Ski Town, USA. This place always took pride in being different. It wasn't just a resort, it was a working ranch town with Friday night football, a rodeo, and deep local roots. But over the last 5 years, Steamboat chased the luxury dollar hard, and now the consequences are impossible to ignore. The collapse unfolding here isn't just about housing prices, it's about a local economy that has snapped under the strain. Between 2019 and 2023, the median home price in Steamboat Springs doubled. Over that same stretch of time, wages barely budged. According to the Yampa Valley Economic Development Council, incomes rose just 8%. That gap is devastating. The result has been a mass exit. The Steamboat Springs School District reported a 10% drop in enrollment last year alone. Classrooms are emptying out as families leave. Even essential services are breaking down. UC Health Yampa Valley Medical Center has declared a staffing crisis, not because of a lack of qualified workers, but because employees simply can't afford to live anywhere near the hospital. This is what happens when a community prices out its own backbone. Unsurprisingly, the housing market is now catching up to that reality. The Steamboat Springs Board of Realtors reports that sales volume for single-family homes has fallen by 40%. But the most dramatic damage is unfolding in the condo market. Steamboat is saturated with aging 1980s-era condos burdened by high HOA fees, and a newly implemented short-term rental tax, among the highest in the country, has turned them into financial dead weight. Condo inventory has surged more than 120%, and a local appraisal firm reports that average prices on these units have dropped about 25% from their peak. That means condos purchased for $900,000 just 2 years ago are now struggling to attract buyers at $650,000. This is a split-level collapse. On one end, multi-million-dollar ranch properties sit untouched. On the other, once attainable condos are racing downward in value. The middle of the market has completely vanished because the middle class has been pushed out. Steamboat Springs may still call itself Ski Town, USA, but today it stands as a cautionary tale of what happens when a town forgets who it's supposed to serve. And if you think this is ugly, just wait until you see where we're headed next. Number 5. Breckenridge. You probably saw this one coming. We're heading back into Summit County, straight to the heavyweight of Colorado mountain tourism, Breckenridge. This former mining town with its storybook Main Street and world-class ski resort draws more than 3 million visitors every year. And yet, beneath all that foot traffic, Breckenridge is wobbling dangerously close to a financial meltdown. What's happening here is largely self-inflicted. Breckenridge priced itself too high, packed itself too tightly, and regulated itself into a corner. The same forces that pushed the town to the top are now pulling it back down, hard. Start with regulation. In an aggressive attempt to fix the housing shortage it helped create, the Breckenridge Town Council passed one of the most restrictive short-term rental crackdowns in the entire country. The Summit County Association of Realtors didn't mince words, warning that the policy effectively erased around 30% of property values almost overnight. AirDNA's numbers back that up. In the newly restricted zones, short-term rental revenue has collapsed by roughly 70%. That sudden loss of income sent heavily leveraged investors scrambling for the exits. The problem is, there's no one on the other side of the trade. Zillow data shows active inventory in Breckenridge has surged 90% year over year. These aren't theoretical listings or seasonal placeholders. These are real homes, sitting empty. One report from the Land Title Guarantee Company shows total transactions in Breckenridge have now declined for 6 consecutive quarters. This isn't a slowdown. It's a full-on housing depression. And the damage doesn't stop with residential real estate. The commercial side of town is unraveling too. According to the Breckenridge Main Street Business Alliance, there are currently 45 vacant storefronts in and around Main Street, the highest number ever recorded. Tourists are still showing up, but they're spending less. Long-term vacation renters have been replaced by short-term day trippers who don't support the local economy the same way. On paper, the median home price still sits north of $1.5 million. In reality, that number borders on fantasy. Zillow reports the average sale-to-list price ratio has fallen to just 92%, meaning homes are closing for about 8% below their already reduced asking prices. Breckenridge has become a winter theme park and an off-season ghost town, and the housing market is finally starting to reflect that truth. What's most striking isn't just the data, it's the denial. And as we move deeper into the true luxury markets next, brace yourself. The numbers only get more extreme from here. Number 4. Telluride. Getting to Telluride isn't accidental. You have to be committed. Tucked deep inside a dramatic southwestern box canyon, the place is almost absurdly beautiful, the kind of scenery that feels staged. This is Telluride, secluded, exclusive, and famously understated, where billionaires dress like ski bums and pretend they're just passing through. But behind that carefully curated image, the real estate market is quietly imploding. The collapse here isn't being driven by condos or entry-level housing. It's the ultra-luxury segment that's breaking down completely. According to newly released data from the Telluride Association of Realtors, sales of homes priced above $5 million have fallen by an astonishing 85%. The influx of California tech wealth and Texas oil money that once powered this market has evaporated. What remains feels less like a community and more like a private club that no one new wants to join. That retreat shows up clearly in the listing data. Homes in Telluride are now sitting on the market for nearly 300 days on average, almost an entire year just to secure a buyer. Meanwhile, inventory keeps stacking up. Listings in the $5 to $10 million range have surged by roughly 150%, creating a logjam at the very top of the market. But the most destabilizing issue isn't even housing, it's the cost of simply existing here. A report from the town's own economic council, Visit Telluride, found that a single gallon of milk can cost as much as $12. The town has reached a point where it can no longer staff itself, busing in service workers from communities up to 2 hours away. Demographics tell an equally troubling story. U.S. Census Bureau data shows Telluride's median age has jumped by 6 years over the past decade, turning it into a town dominated by older part-time residents rather than full-time families. And now, another critical pillar is crumbling: insurance. Because of the extreme wildfire risk within the Box Canyon, major insurers like State Farm and Allstate have paused new policy issuance altogether. And without insurance, mortgages become impossible. Telluride has effectively become a flawless museum, beautiful, preserved, and lifeless. The problem is the exhibits are starting to panic. Anyone who bought in over the past 3 years is now underwater with no clear exit. We're heading back east next. The final 3 towns on our list are the very symbols of the Colorado dream, and they're facing the deepest trouble of all. Number 3. Edwards. You might be wondering, where is that? And honestly, that question says everything. We're in the Vail Valley, but not in Vail itself. This is Edwards, the spread-out, unincorporated community where everyday life actually happens. It's home to the teachers, firefighters, lift supervisors, and hotel managers who keep Vail and Beaver Creek running. And right now, this town is unraveling. Edwards is what the collapse of local really looks like. For decades, it served as the safety valve for Vail's excess, a place where the workforce could still afford to live. That balance broke during the pandemic. Wealthy buyers didn't stop at Vail's borders. They bought everything, including Edwards. Homes once meant for working families were snapped up, and the entire labor base was priced out almost overnight. Now the service economy that supports a resort industry worth more than $100 billion is cracking apart. The Eagle County Classifieds, the region's primary job board, lists over 3,000 open positions. Not because business is booming, but because there's no one left to fill them. Eagle County Schools reports being short roughly 70 teachers simply because qualified applicants can't find anywhere to live. What's happening here is a reverse real estate collapse. Prices are still high, but the community that justified them is gone. The Vail Valley Partnership, the local economic council, reports consumer spending in Edwards has dropped by 20%. Restaurants are quiet, grocery stores are slower, local shops are empty. Housing data confirms the hollowing out effect. The Vail Board of Realtors shows sales of homes under $1 million, the traditional local market, have fallen 60%, largely because that segment no longer exists. At the same time, Zillow reports that inventory for homes priced above $2 million in Edwards has more than doubled. Those high-end properties are just sitting there, unused. What's left is a zombie town. Wealthy owners show up for a few weeks each year, while the remaining workforce drives 2 hours from places you've probably never heard of. This isn't just a social collapse anymore, it's turning into a financial one. When staffing disappears at $5,000 a night hotels, the guests will eventually stop coming too. And when that happens, the entire system falls apart. Edwards is the warning sign for the entire resort economy, a place that has already lost its soul, even if the housing market hasn't admitted it yet. It's heartbreaking to watch. And somehow, what's happening just up the road is even more shocking. Number 2. Vail. This is it. The icon, the legend, the name that has long been synonymous with world-class skiing. We're arriving in Vail, a town deliberately engineered to be the ultimate alpine fantasy. For half a century, owning property here was considered one of the safest bets in real estate, anywhere on the planet. That era is officially over. Vail is now in a free fall of its own making, shaped by elite choices that no longer work. The breakdown here comes from a dangerous mix of outdated housing stock, jaw-dropping ownership costs, and a new class of wealthy buyers who simply see Vail as yesterday's resort. Start with the holding costs alone. In Vail Village, average HOA fees have climbed past $2,000 per month. That's $24,000 a year, before factoring in a mortgage, property taxes, or any private club dues. According to the Vail Board of Realtors, transaction volume in Vail Village has collapsed by 70% from its peak. Buyers haven't slowed down, they've walked away entirely. And it's not hard to see why. With $5 million to spend, buyers can now choose brand new luxury homes in places like Jackson Hole or Big Sky instead. Vail, by comparison, is aging badly. Local appraisers report that Vail has the oldest inventory of any major ski resort in the country, with the average condo dating back to 1984. That means buyers are staring down renovation costs that can easily exceed $500,000 on top of already sky-high prices. The result is growing seller desperation. Redfin data shows the median time on market in Vail has stretched to 180 days, roughly 6 months. And the price cuts are anything but subtle. Local MLS figures reveal the average listing is now being reduced by about 12%. On a $5 million condo, that's a $600,000 loss just to get a deal done. But the most alarming trouble isn't just in housing, it's in the town itself. Vail's municipal budget is staring at a $20 million shortfall as sales tax revenue has dropped sharply. U.S. Census Bureau data confirms the population is shrinking. Vail isn't merely facing a real estate downturn, it's grappling with an identity crisis. Once the gold standard, it's now being treated like a legacy brand that failed to evolve. It's almost impossible to believe, but even this isn't the bottom. There is still one town left where the collapse is deeper, more symbolic, and more devastating than anywhere else on this list. Number 1. Aspen. There was only one place this journey could end. We crossed the mountain pass into the roaring Fork Valley and arrived at the final stop, Aspen. This isn't merely a town, it's a worldwide symbol. Aspen is a brand, a hideaway for the ultra-wealthy, the top tier of the top tier. And yet, despite its reputation, Aspen now stands as the most severe real estate collapse in all of Colorado. The market here isn't wobbling, it's an outright freefall. For decades, Aspen lived by an unshakable rule. Prices only move in one direction. That belief has now completely unraveled. The pandemic inflated a bubble so extreme, so disconnected from economic reality, that its collapse is sending shockwaves far beyond Colorado and into the global luxury market. The numbers are staggering. Data from the Aspen Glenwood MLS shows the median sale price for a single-family home in Aspen has fallen 32% from its peak. Read that again, 32%. Properties once valued at $40 million are now trading closer to $28 million. That represents billions of dollars in evaporated paper wealth. At the same time, overall sales volume has plunged by more than 65%. Buyers haven't slowed down. They've disappeared entirely. So why the sudden abandonment? Because the Aspen premium no longer makes sense. Private jets are landing elsewhere. Tech executives who once worked remotely from slopeside mansions are being summoned back to headquarters. The era of cheap money that fueled this fantasy is over. And now the inventory tells the real story. Active listings in Aspen have exploded, climbing 210%. Everyone is trying to exit at once. Zillow data shows homes now sit on the market for an average of 275 days. That's not a functioning market. That's a showroom with no customers. But the most jaw-dropping statistic comes from the Pitkin County assessor. With transactions collapsing, Aspen's commercial tax base has begun to evaporate. Luxury retailers and art galleries are reporting sales declines of 50%. The economic core of the town is hollowing out. Census data confirms just how extreme the imbalance has become. More than 60% of homes in Aspen sit vacant for over 10 months each year. This isn't a living town, it's a seasonal shell. Aspen has become the epicenter of a massive wealth reversal. A place built on illusion is now facing the consequences of believing its own myth. The fall here is the most dramatic precisely because prices had climbed to the most irrational heights. There is no debate left. This is the worst real estate disaster in Colorado. And with that, our road trip comes to an end. From investor panic in Pagosa Springs to the construction glut in Silverthorne, from the hollowing out of Edwards to the billionaire bubble bursting in Aspen, the pattern is unmistakable. The Colorado mountain dream, supercharged by pandemic money and ultra-low interest rates, has turned into a financial nightmare. These markets aren't stabilizing. They aren't correcting. They are collapsing, and the data makes that painfully clear. This is a warning to anyone still thinking about buying, and a harsh reality for those who purchased at the peak. The avalanche has started, and no one knows how far it will run. If you found this investigation useful, hit the like button Share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. And tell us in the comments, which town shocked you the most and where should we investigate next? Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.